I find the evolution of the Marvel Netflix shows kind of fascinating. They started off as this really revolutionary thing for the MCU, even becoming kind of a cultural phenomenon, and now they faded not into obscurity. There are definitely still a lot of people watching them, but they're certainly not at the level that they used to be. So I thought today it could be interesting to talk about how I would fix the Marvel Netflix shows, in honor of Iron Fist Season 2 coming out, I guess. Now based on that title, a lot of people will think that I'm saying these shows are terrible. Again, not at all. I actually really enjoy most of these. Still haven't reviewed Luke Cage Season 2, I don't know if I will, it seems kinda too late now, but short version of it, I loved most of it, hated the start, and thought the end was disappointing. Anyway, point is, the only one of these I think is truly awful is Iron Fist Season 1. Quick recap of my thoughts on all of these up front, by the way. Amazing, 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 pretty good, terrible, underwhelming, amazing, pretty good. And I haven't watched Iron Fist Season 2 yet. That's an important note. If Iron Fist Season 2 does everything perfectly, then I guess this video doesn't apply there. Although based on the early reactions, it seems to be following this pattern. If I review it, I'll probably do a double review with that and Luke Cage Season 2, but anyway, we're getting off track. Also spoilers, just spoilers for all of these shows. Obviously, except for Iron Fist Season 2. The point here is, I don't think these are awful. I just think on the whole, they're not as good as they used to be, and could be easily improved with a few small changes. Then again, I've never made a big budget TV show before, and I have no idea how difficult it could actually be to do these things. But who cares? Let's go. First thing. This is, in my eyes, the easiest way to improve these. The problem I have with all of these, with the exception of Defenders, is that they're too damn long. Even the ones I love, Punisher for example, there are like 2 or 3 episodes worth of content throughout there, probably a bit of that micro-family stuff, that should just be left on the cutting room floor. And that's with the ones that I love. The ones that aren't as good, all have just like 3 episodes of dead space that just keeps going on and on. Both seasons of Luke Cage, at different points in them, have this problem. Full disclosure, I don't know about the inner business workings of Netflix, so I don't know if they're locked into a contract where it has to be 13 episodes, but it sure seems that way. A lot of these seem like the 13, not because it was a creative decision for the story, but because they just had to fill the space. It's just padding. Defenders was 8. That was awesome. That show had other problems, but the runtime was pretty perfect. It felt much tighter than the others. Iron Fist Season 2 I've seen as 10 episodes. I don't know how they handled that, but that seems like definitely a step in the right direction. I know some people will say this is just me having a short attention span or something. It's not. Consistently, there are like 3 or 4 episodes where I'm thinking, this is getting very repetitive. Sorry, hope that some of these breaking away from that is a sign of good things to come. This one should go without saying, but with this connected universe, why isn't it more connected? The best part of Defenders was seeing the characters cross over. One of my favorite parts of Luke Cage Season 2 was the Iron Fist bit. This wish really stems from 2 points. 1, the crossover aspect is just fun, generally. As the MCU films have proved, seeing characters individually develop and then cross over and interact is just a really exciting and fun experience, which is what I feel a lot of other movie studios trying to make their own cinematic universes fail with. And 2, most of these characters I feel either don't need another season or work better as supporting characters. The only 2 of these I genuinely really want to see more of are Daredevil and Punisher. Jessica Jones, really great layered character, but the way her last season ended, despite a few setups for the future with supporting characters, I was like, I'm happy to be done with this character. It seems like her arc has pretty much come full circle. We've explored a lot of the most interesting aspects of this character. If we never saw her again, I wouldn't be super disappointed or anything. And I mean that in a good way. Luke Cage is sort of a similar situation. I like him a lot as a character, and even though the last season ended on kind of a disappointing note for me, I don't really feel that urge to see another solo season of that. I'm not saying these characters can't carry their own seasons, I'm just saying I feel like we've sort of covered their characters, and I'd rather see them interacting or playing into other characters' stories. Yes, there's clearly still quite a bit left to Luke's arc, but seeing it in another 13-episode season, that seems a bit excessive. And Iron Fist, again, haven't seen Season 2, but from the 3 series I have seen him in, he works way better as a supporting character. I quite liked his appearance in Defenders, because it was just everyone calling him out on his whininess, and he actually seemed to grow as a person. Luke Cage Season 2, he was great, sort of dropping in for a little moral support and action team-up. In his own first season, he's just not that compelling of a character. And I'm not talking about the character in general. Iron Fist comic fans, I'm sure Danny Rand is an amazing character in the comics, probably. The way they presented him in his show though, whether it's the writing or the performance, or more likely, a combination of the 2, he's just not that engaging of a main solo protagonist. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. The MCU movies have found this as well. Some characters just work better in supporting roles than they do as main characters. The Hulk, I think, is the most obvious example, but I also think this applies to Doctor Strange. And I know that's gonna sound crazy to some people, and I genuinely really liked his solo movie. But that wasn't that much because of the character himself. It was more because of the creative world and action and style and all that. In Ragnarok, and especially Infinity War, the character is awesome. He was one of my favorite characters in Infinity War, top 3 for sure. Because he brings with him that whole aspect of the MCU, and because of his relatively limited screen time, all of his action stuff and character stuff feels fresh and fun, like his interactions with Tony Stark, for example. And going forward, I think I'd rather see him pop up in other characters' movies over having an actual solo sequel. I think it's good we had that movie to get familiar with him and this world, but going forward, I don't think we really need more solo stuff, necessarily. Anyway, we've gotten kinda sidetracked. My point is, some characters just work well in supporting roles, and I think those kinds of characters here should maybe not have their own seasons going forward, but rather pop up in team-up seasons. I'd so much rather see a Luke Cage Iron Fist team-up season than I would see a second or third season of either of those individual shows. Another way the MCU movies relate to this, ever since, I'd say, Winter Soldier, they've realized they should use the potential of this universe and the fun crossover possibilities that are available. Falcon, Black Widow, and Fury in Winter Soldier, Falcon and Ant-Man, everyone in Civil War, Strange and Hulk in Ragnarok, Tony in Homecoming, etc., etc. And I think it's absolutely benefited those films, so why not apply it with TV as well? This is the other thing that I think has contributed to these starting to just be more average rather than truly exceptional. Ever since I'd say around Luke Cage Season 1, these have started to feel really samey and not unique. Story and general structure-wise, and also some little specifics. Obviously stories are going to have a structure to them, but there's little stuff that I've noticed in these that just make them feel really repetitive. It starts kinda slow, sets up the main villain, then a character who you wouldn't have really thought would be a main villain becomes a main villain. Episode 7, there's usually a really big twist there, some minor supporting characters killed, etc. It's just getting easier and easier to predict what's coming next. And then there's other smaller specific stuff that on its own wouldn't really be distracting, but adding all this stuff up, it just leads to this blending together sort of feeling. Location is one example. I mean, initially, it was sort of fun to see this specific corner of the MCU, but now I'm like, can we maybe move out of this city a little more? Punisher had a little bit of that, both at the start and throughout, and I enjoyed that a lot. Also, I know it's sort of a joke with these Marvel Netflix shows, but I think we've had enough dark alleys and/or hallway fights. I get that that's the kind of world these characters operate in, but at this point, switching it up may be worth it, because I feel like I've seen these characters barrel through every hallway in New York. I'm not entirely sure why these went a little bit downhill in terms of action. Daredevil Seasons 1 and 2, and Punisher, phenomenal action. Iron Fist, genuinely some awful action, with bad editing and choreography, but everything else, namely Luke Cage, Defenders, and Jessica Jones, it's just super average and kind of paint by numbers. There are some standout moments here and there, but I just think it's a shame, because there were so many very memorable action moments from Daredevil and Punisher, and there's really not anything as memorable or distinct from these others. Jessica Jones I might give more of a pass to, because it is less action-focused on the whole than these others. But like Luke Cage, either he walks into a building and gets shot and slaps a few guys, or he faces a villain who's found some way to get past his invulnerability, and he gets beat up a bit, and then spends the next 2 episodes being sad about it. And that's pretty much it. My point is, the action is entertaining enough when it's there, and this isn't a huge complaint or anything. It's not bad. It's just kinda bland, and not as memorable anymore with some of these. Okay, this last one isn't something that necessarily would improve the Netflix shows, it's just something I would really love to see. I'm not going to talk a lot about it, because this is the sort of thing that I could, and probably will, make a whole video on. Will we ever see this? I think so. Not too soon, but at some point down the line, they'll do it. I'm just getting a little sick of these shows being like, hey, remember the incident? Remember the big green guy? We're in the same world, right guys? Logically, if you're looking at this universe as a whole, it also does sort of fall apart. Like, of course, a universe this big is going to have some dumb logic moments due to its size and scope, but the fact that no one even references these very well-known vigilantes in this area, and like, not a single Avenger was concerned when New York was nearly destroyed because of dragon bones, or whatever. Like, Tony Stark goes to New York to find someone to join his team in Civil War, and he asks a 14-year-old kid.
I'm 15. No, this is where you zip it!
Instead of, oh, I don't know, one of the very well-known vigilantes in the same area at the time? That's just small stuff. The main thing is, it would be such a fun and cool crossover, with these characters that are, with 1 or 2 exceptions, I'd say just as well developed as the movie characters. Seeing Punisher and Captain America, Doctor Strange and Iron Fist, it would just be so cool. So do it, Marvel. Please do it. So those are my thoughts on how to improve the Marvel Netflix shows. What do you want to see happen with these? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson, check out this podcast about movies and TV and whatnot I do with a friend of mine, it's called The Poorly Planned Podcast, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.